future is, but it'll never be our past. Even just to turn your world, it'll never ever change the past. Yeah.
We're finally live!
Yay!
Hey, Happy New Year! We're off to one hell of a start. Welcome to 2019. GVN Live is back with Season 4. With me is Mark B. Writing, Janyce, and Bryan. How is everybody today? Let's start with you, Mark.
I'm fine.
Hi.
Nothing changes in the new year. How are you, Jan?
It's interesting. Like I'm just finally getting over a sinus infection, so yeah.
You're getting over
That's a-
one. I'm
that's a
in the
start.
middle of one.
Ugh.
It's great. And Bryan, what's happening?
Well,
It's been a while.
Not to be left out, I have a cold that I'm trying to get over here. So I feel like that's what the requirement to be on GVN Live is to have some sort of cold or sinus infection.
Apparently.
Yeah,
Who
okay.
knew?
Since we're all off to a great start, I nearly cut my thumb off the other day on the bandsaw. Great news, right? Sucker wouldn't stop bleeding for 2 hours.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely terrible. Thanks for that.
Hey. Anyway, so today is the GVN Live Awards, this annual thing that started off as a joke, and it still is a joke, but at least we're adding a little bit more serious tone to it. I want to thank you, Bryan, for joining us, by the way. Always happy to have you on the show. It's always a pleasure.
Apologies, I can't be on more often.
I mean, you got a great job, man. You get to watch movies.
Duty calls.
Yeah.
I mean, fair.
So before we kick off the award show itself, what did everyone think of 2018 in a nutshell? I actually want to share my thoughts first. Surprisingly underwhelming, in my opinion, for games. It looked like it was going to be probably one of the best years in gaming in general, but like some of the big games that were coming out just didn't really leave that big of a taste in my mouth whatsoever. Well, that and the fact that Monster Hunter World stole me away from most of the other great games that I enjoyed.
Oops.
So, how about you, Jen? What was your 2018?
Oh man, I pretty much 2018 was like, for me, I feel like it was just like a build up. You know, it's like I see all of these new games and all these great franchises and these returns that we've been waiting for a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
Square, I'm looking at you. That we finally get, and it's like, I gotta wait one more year. All right, this is fine. But hey, you know what? That's okay, because that means that I get to take a look at all of these other games that did get a chance to come out that I actually enjoyed. So overall, I'd say it was 7 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. All right, and Bryan, how about you, sir? How was 2018 for you? And I'm echoing on someone's screen.
I thought it was a pretty good. I'll turn down mine. I don't know if that's mine or not. I thought it was a pretty good year. I mean, it started off really strong with Dragon Ball and Monster Hunter. It ended really strong with Red Dead 2 and Smash Ultimate. This year, we're seeing a similar thing starting off. So with starting strong with Resident Evil and Kingdom Hearts. So I thought overall it was a pretty good year. Soul Calibur was a big highlight for me. Dragon Ball was a big highlight for me, obviously. So I mean, I don't really have too many complaints. Nothing really unexpected for me happened this year. So I was pleased with the games that we got, and delays and stuff I pretty much expected. So ready for 2019, ready for 2020. Not really ready for new consoles, but they're coming anyway. So we'll see.
Okay, and rounding out our thoughts in 2018, Mr. Mark B. Writing. How was it for you this year? Last year?
It was okay. No, it's like, I mean, there were a bunch of good games that came out at the beginning of the year, and a bunch of games came out at the end of the year, like Bryan said. I definitely would say that 2017 was better in terms of the actual releases that we got. 2018 had a couple of downers, but by and large, I feel it did a pretty good job just as a year of video games. I enjoyed the games that I played, and I played a bunch of games that were a lot of fun. I would also agree with Janice's assessment. 7 out of 10. Too much shit.
Yeah, I can agree with that in so many
Not
ways.
enough Metal Wolf Chaos.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed when that got pushed back. They're like, it's going to be quarter not this year. And I'm like, I hate all of you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll give our thoughts about what we're looking forward to in 2019 towards the end of our show. But without further ado, let's jump right into what we're here for. Ladies and gentlemen, the GVN Live Awards show. Sorry, Brian.
No worries. You don't know how to spell my name. It's fine. You've only known me for a decade or two.
Why did you look like Dr. Evil?
All right,
Yeah,
and to kick things off, ladies and gentlemen, here is Mr. Mark B. Riding presenting the first category, the Asshole Status Achievement Award.
Oh God, here we go. I did not realize that I was starting. Holy shit!
Didn't you create our spreadsheet? That list?
Yeah, he totally did.
Yeah,
He's
I'm looking at the
looking at it
wrong.
all over
I'm
the
looking at the wrong goddamn page. Fuck. All right. So, the Asshole Status Achieved Award is generally something that we have reserved for people who had a bad 2018 due entirely to them being terrible shits. It's had wonderful luminaries associated with it. Since we, I think, only started doing it last year, including JonTron and Low Tier God. But this year's listing of nominees is just absolutely magical. And with that, the nominees are...
I don't think we need that allegedly in there anymore.
Oh.
Just to protect our ass.
From a legal perspective, it's and the winner is... Do we have some kind of like a note that you're going to play or something here? Or do I just say the person and go?
Just say the person and go.
Okay, the winner is PewDiePie! Okay,
Much to shock to no one.
just as a note, everything else I'm going to discuss tonight is mostly going to be a stream of consciousness thing where I just say what comes off the top of my head. But for this, I had so many bullet points to hit, I had to write a script. So buckle up. So, back in 2017, I did a podcast with former Die Hard Gamecast collaborator Matt Yeager where we discussed context, which came up because PewDiePie paid people to hold up a sign saying "Death to all Jews" and said the N-word during a live stream. At the time, I said I didn't think that Felix was a racist, just that he was an internet edgelord who was deeply stupid and would hopefully take steps to improve himself in the months and years that followed. I'm glad I didn't put any bets down on that happening because holy crap, this guy. In the time since those two events, which, let me remind you, cost him a YouTube series and basically did a not small amount of damage to him financially and publicly, Felix has: 1. Defended the Ralph retort for running a charity live stream for St. Jude's Children's Hospital without actually knowing anything about the content in the live stream, including actual neo-Nazi Mark Collette saying Jewish people control the media, multiple people debating that the Holocaust didn't happen, and donators giving money in the amount of $14.88 to that, which is a reference to the white supremacists' 14 words, and H being the 8th letter of the alphabet, which means that 88 means HH, and they don't mean Hulk Hogan. 2. Recommended a YouTube channel to his viewers, E:R, which is run by a guy who's a pretty open white supremacist. Now, PewDiePie argued in what could basically be described as a non-apology video that he couldn't possibly have known that that guy was a racist because the language in his videos is coded to be for racists, and he isn't one. And you know what? Fair enough. Maybe he wouldn't recognize the point in that video where the creator made a Death Note heart attack joke by way of making a joke about the death of Heather Heyer, complete with actual footage from her death. But when I get 2 minutes into a dude's video and he describes Asian Americans as rice Americans, or I see the since redacted description on a video that says, quote, "The truth about why this took so long is because I thought it was so funny to call Black L racial epithet deleted throughout all of my recordings," I don't think it takes Kreskin to know this guy is a racist, Felix. 3. During his battle with T-Series on who would be the highest subbed YouTube channel, several of his fans got pretty racist. To which he stated he didn't want to see that, which is fair enough, but then noted, and I'm quoting, "I obviously made Indian jokes and stuff like that, but I do that of all countries, and this is not what I'm about." Which, maybe don't make those jokes in the first place, Felix. T-Series is a content farm. There's much better avenues you can go down than making jokes about their ethnicity and then backpedaling when your fans see you do that and in turn take it too far. 4. Mutually follows Paul Joseph Watson, a former contributor to InfoWars, yes, that InfoWars, who, in addition to being a crazy conspiracy theorist, is also a big ol' racist, especially against immigrants and black Romans for some stupid reason. He also really hates soy unless it's in Brainforce Plus. 5. Mutually follows Stefan Molyneux, who is a racist misogynist who believes in white genocide, has been accused of attempting to run a therapy cult through his videos, and has me blocked on social media, despite the fact that I am basically nobody and have never interacted with him once. Because Kefka from Final Fantasy VI would look at this guy and go, man, he's fucking unstable. Also, just yesterday, Molyneux tweeted that, quote, biracial kids have a lot more psychological problems, so there's that. 6. Eustace mutually follow Sargon of Akkad, which I know because screenshots exist of this thing. Thanks, Arthur Donald, for making my job easier. And even tweeted out a link to one of Sargon's videos, essentially promoting him. That's great, by the way, because Sargon is such a stable person, he's been banned from both Twitter and Patreon for saying the N-word too many times. And for those who would argue, oh, well, he got banned from Patreon because he said it on someone else's content. Yeah, he also said it in his own YouTube videos. YouTube just made him take those videos down. Now, you could argue, and many people have in my mentions on Twitter, that, oh, Felix didn't know these things, so he shouldn't be held accountable to them. Or that following someone on social media doesn't mean he inherently approves of their content. You know what? Fine. Fair enough. I'll give you that. However, it is worth noting that this is PewDiePie's job, which he is paid money for, and that if he, making around $12 million a year, can't put the amount of basic effort into his content that I put into this entry that I'm doing for free, it's entirely reasonable to say that he's lazy and call him out on that. Hell, in one case, he literally linked to a video with the N-word in the description. And someone asked me, oh, who reads content descriptions on YouTube videos anymore? You know who should? The guy making $12 million a year for his content. I mean, look, I want to note, I don't give a damn about the guy's politics. I know he had Ben Shapiro on his channel at one point, and he reviewed Jordan Peterson's book, and whatever, man. If Felix is inherently conservative, I literally don't care about that, even if I'm not a personal fan of his choice of content to highlight. But Felix is the literal face of video games at this point, for better or for worse. And when he screws up, we all have to deal with that. If you want to defend him, argue that what happened wasn't a big deal or that it was taken out of content, you know what? Go ahead, I guess. But at this point, over a year removed from two of the biggest screw-ups in his career, Felix has proven that he has one of two major issues. Either he, on some fundamental level, has issues with how he views race, or he is deeply, deeply stupid and lazy and has no desire to ever grow, change, or do anything that would involve actual basic work because he doesn't have to, because his fans will never expect any better.
Oh my, that was a good start to this show. What do you think?
You're the one to blame for this one.
I'm not the one to blame for it. He's the one who decided to go first, and he forgot.
Oops.
All right, well, thank you, Mark, for presenting that award. Up next is Jan for the 5 More Minutes Award.
Hello. So, as we go through every year of gaming and we think about things that are the reason why we keep playing, it's a lot of times it has to be with, you know, these are the games that I really wanted to keep playing because these are the games that kept me interested in actually wanting to keep playing gaming. You know, it's rare that you do that outside of maybe an MMO or a standard game like Fortnite or PUBG or whatever battle royale you happen to be playing this month. I don't even know anymore. There's so many at this point. But at this point, we really have it narrowed down to not just what we have for this year, but I feel like what probably, while we started at the top saying it was a bit of a slow year, are probably the best games that really kept enough people interested. So that being said, the nominees for just 5 More Minutes are
Gentlemen, this is a robbery.
Sons of Dutch. Makes us brothers. Sometimes brothers make mistakes.
And the winner is Monster Hunter World. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that this was a really close actual vote. We deadlocked for a few minutes until we actually were able to actually discuss what we felt were the primary reasons as to why this was a game that we just kept coming back to. And it honestly was down to Monster Hunter World and Dragon Ball FighterZ. While Dragon Ball FighterZ has its own ways of shining very brightly, especially this year, and especially in the fighting game genre, Monster Hunter World took it by storm. And the reason for it was just its sheer just ability to just keep you wanting to continue to play it more and more and more. And the best part about it was it just kept rewarding. And the newer content as the game continued to develop, evolve and grow. And as the world itself just sort of enveloped you in just the absolute grandeur that was Monster Hunter World, especially considering the fact that this is the first time we've seen an actual home console version of Monster Hunter in the United States since Monster Hunter 2? It's been a while. So the fact that we finally got something that isn't on an actual mobile platform like the DS or the PSP or the Wii, I don't really think that counts. But anyway, the baseline is we finally got something that not only showed the up-to-date, just in-your-face style of gameplay that Monster Hunter is known for, but it also put it into the hands of people not only old but new as well. And that to me is really a big reason why you just kept going back to it, because more people started getting into the Monster Hunter world that may never have even thought about wanting to play it, especially considering the fact that all of these exclusive crossovers they had, not just for the PS4, but also that they brought over to the PC version a little bit later on as well, with games like Street Fighter, Devil May Cry, the PlayStation exclusive crossover that they had for Aloy and her weapons in for Horizon Zero Dawn, as well as the fact that they also did a Witcher crossover this week. You know, the Final Fantasy XIV crossover, like everything that this game has done up to this point, and then announcing the expansion as they have with endless possibilities for additional crossovers and other monsters that we may not have thought possible or even thought would see the light of day are probably coming, you know? So the fact that they just keep pushing it and they keep moving it and they keep showing that this is the game that they really want to continue to develop outside of what they've done from the separate team that was working on the Switch version of Double Cross really brings to mind the idea that Capcom has made a game and a world that both Monster Hunter fans and new players alike can actually access and have fun with. And for us, that was really just the big key, is as long as that continues to be the cornerstone for what they're going to do for this game, it's only going to go better from here. So with that, we'll move on to the next award, which is the Comeback Kid Award, presented by Robert.
Hey everybody, so I am presenting a brand new award that is that was just added this year. As a matter of fact, it's the Comeback Kid Award, and this is a category where we actually highlight companies and games who have gone through rough patches where they've had a high disapproval from their fan base. They've failed really hard at what it is they wanted to deliver, and they just managed to find a way to bounce back and win back the approval of the fans. So this is pretty much what this category is all about, and here are the nominees. All right, so the big winner this year for the Comeback Kid Award is Capcom. And the reason for that is because Capcom just really knocked it out of the ballpark this year. Starting off literally at the beginning of the year with the release of Monster Hunter World. And then continuing on right there with, like was mentioned, Mega Man 11 also making his glorious return in a brand new direction while still paying respect and homage to the previous games of the franchise. And then you also had, the quick release or announcement and release of Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate for the Switch after the insane success that Monster Hunter World has seen worldwide, making it the most popular and probably the best-selling game in the entire franchise, as a matter of fact. The other companies, hey, they did great. Sega, announcing a new Phantasy Star, announcing some new games to come out, released a really great Fist of the North Star game. Microsoft poisoning themselves for the future by getting so many great companies, little companies, giving them the money to, do whatever. But Capcom this year really just, sealed the deal for me, made it really exciting to look forward to any new prospects. I mean, hell, Resident Evil 2 is right around the corner, and we were all giddy as hell when they finally showed it off at E3 last year. So, I mean, right now, Capcom looks like, they're returning to the roots as being a great company that just wants to put out great content once again. So, there you have it. For the first Comeback Kid Award, it goes to Capcom. And up next is Bryan with the All Aboard the Hype Train.
So basically, the All Aboard the Hype Train category is a category that recognizes games that were super hyped leading up to them, and then kind of did they live up to that hype? There are a lot of games in this category, which we'll show you in just a second. But I mean, it's basically games that everybody couldn't wait to get their hands on. That whether they were announced years in advance or just a few months in advance, everybody couldn't wait for that fateful day when they could sit home and play that game for the very first time and probably spend an entire week. So without further ado, here are the nominees for All Aboard the Hype Train.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a robbery.
Sons of Dutch. Makes us brothers. Sometimes brothers make mistakes.
Like the breeze, country roads, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia.
Rising up as a chorus of souls finds a voice, flickering through the void. These little sparks cling on to life. Everyone caught in the struggle.
And the winner of the All Aboard the Hype Train Award is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This was a game that basically it was everything Smash Bros. Fans could want for the most part. It had every single character, every single stage, every single music piece that's ever been included in any Super Smash Bros., including all guest characters. It was faster than both Brawl and Super Smash Wii U and DS. It wasn't quite what the Melee players wanted, but it was a really nice mix of Smash 4 and Smash Melee, kind of hitting that nice median point so that most people who played both games could enjoy this. And it's the online hasn't been great, but the hype building up to it with Nintendo announcing that everyone's coming, with Nintendo killing off character after character, but before that final trailer they killed everybody with the exception of Kirby. There was just so much hype. There were directs dedicated just to this game, multiple directs dedicated just to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And then when it came out, it literally sold 70% more physical copies in that first month than Brawl, which was the highest selling game in the franchise up until that point. So it literally smashed all kinds of records for both game sales in 1 month of an exclusive title, and sales related to just Super Smash Brothers. And so far, after the release, even though that this isn't factored into the Hype Train Award, but since the release, most everyone is really happy with the product that we've received. There are some online issues, there's some netcode issues, there's some stuff there, but for the casual crowd, they're super happy. The competitive crowd is, overall happy except for playing online. And, it has not only met the expectations of all that hype, but exceeded it in some ways and become what, its namesake is. It is the ultimate Super Smash Bros. Title. It's actually lived up to the hype. So with that, we now move on to our first Game of the Year award, which is going to be presented by Hubs.
Oh man, Where do I begin? All right, let's start off with this. It's Monster Hunter World. Obvious, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, there is the hardcore crowd of Monster Hunter fans that aren't exactly a big fan of Monster Hunter World, and you know what? That's fine. But for someone like me who came into the franchise through Monster Hunter Tri on the Wii, and then playing this game 3 games later in the franchise, I can just say without a doubt that I really enjoy this game a lot. Spent well over 300 hours playing it between both the PC and the PS4 version. What is it about this game that I truly find captivating? Well, one of the things I do like is how easily accessible and quick it is to pick up this game. Granted, in the past games, they all started off rather slow, had a really steep learning curve. This game picks it up a notch from the very beginning, and you're just off running. It's got probably one of the biggest story campaigns that I've actually seen in any of the Monster Hunter world, in any of the Monster Hunter games that I've ever seen. The new monsters, they're pretty fun. I love the behaviors that they've added, the new abilities that they've added for returning monsters. The environments are gorgeous. The music is great. Just the crafting system that's been a staple for the franchise for a long time is, just amazing. And the online scene, just playing alongside, so many people, and then expanding with having multiple people, like up to 16 people in a party chat. It's just so much fun. It's a well-rounded game that I really have very few cons about, and I'm just looking forward to the Iceborne expansion. I mean, I probably should have written this out and thought about this a lot better, to be truthfully honest, but I had a lot of other things going on at the time, so I'm sorry for botching this game of the year. To be truthfully honest, I'm sure someone else will share their thoughts on this later on. But in the meantime, I mean, yeah, Monster Hunter World is such a stellar game, and I really think everyone should have a go at it whenever they have a chance, especially before Iceborne comes out end of the year. So there you go, first game of the year. Up next is the I Feel Like a Badass Award, and that is presented by Mr. Mark B. Writing.
There are games that, when you play them, evoke many different feelings and emotions and responses. Some games can make you feel just really resonant with the characters. Some games can make you feel truly sad or truly happy for the events that have occurred. And some games just make you feel great because you just punched some fucking monster right up its asshole. These are the games that we're talking about right here. I Feel Like a Badass. And the nominees are...
Close your heart to their desperation. Close your heart to their suffering. The road ahead is long and unforgiving.
It's too late for you. You're already dead.
And the winner is Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise, which, if you have played it, should not be a surprise to you in any meaningful way. I mean, it's Fist of the North Star in the Yakuza engine. I should just be able to stop right there, but if you've somehow missed out on both Fist of the North Star and Yakuza, like better things next time before you show up to the stream. Anyway, Fist of the North Star follows the character of Kenshiro as he attempts to search the ruined post-apocalyptic world for his lover Yuria, who has been taken by his former best friend Shin. Oh yeah, and Ken can just like touch people and make them explode into their component parts, or just misty blood clouds. So taking that with an engine that is designed quite heavily around the idea of visceral fighting action, punching and kicking the shit out of everything that you see, it is very easy to see how this game could have been just by itself a reskinning of a Yakuza game. But no, there's more. Ken has so many fighting techniques that are beyond what you would expect, putting his thumb in the side of a person's head, swinging them around and throwing them away until they explode in a blood cloud. And he gets ridiculous mini games where he has to chip down a giant block of ice into a tiny little ice cube that he mixes into a shot. This game, from every single thing that you do, from making drinks to driving the car to beating up dudes to DDR-style mini games in a hospital, for some reason, just makes you feel like you are Kenshiro, the post-apocalyptic world's ultimate badass. And with that done, our next category is the I Feel Dirty for Playing That award, which is being presented to us by Mr. Robert Hubbs.
All right, so in the past, we have used the I Feel Dirty for Playing That award to show off games that we feel bad for playing, be it something like Nico Para, right, Mark? Or playing an EA sports hockey game, for instance. Pretty much, it covers a whole wide range of things. Not necessarily bad games, not necessarily semi-pornographic games or anything like that. It's just any kind of game that, you know, that is panned for one reason or another, and yet you find the guiltiest of pleasures within them, and you keep playing for it. You keep playing it for whatever reason. And with that, here are the nominees for I Feel Dirty for Playing That.
Like the breeze, country roads, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia.
And the winner of this goes to Fallout 76. So, the reason for that is because besides being panned as probably one of the worst released games of last year, being broken beyond belief, and so many other things surrounding the game and inside it, I still managed to find something fun about it every day. The other day, I finally got to be involved in my first nuclear strike. I ran into the bombing zone and watched as the nuclear warhead fell down on my face. I loved it.
There's an achievement for that.
There is, and I got it on PC. I don't know what it is. I mean, this game is so bad in the fact that it is not even, I would say it's almost like alpha state in the way it was released. And yet I'm having so much fun running around the wastelands of West Virginia with my friends online. Running away from super mutants for whatever reason, showing up almost 200 years before their canon appearance. not seeing a single NPC anywhere in sight, which is kind of a drag, and yet I still press on, checking and exploring and just looking and doing whatever the hell I can in Fallout 76. I don't know why I like this game. It's a fucking turd. And there you have it. So with that, the next category is being presented by Bryan, and it is the game that everyone forgot about.
So this category is basically the games that, you know, whether they were hyped or not hyped or whatever, like most people knew that these games were coming out. Maybe some people were even excited for these games. But after they released, they were forgotten about almost immediately. Like, you can actually look back on 2018 and be like, hey, did you remember this game that released? And you go, oh yeah, that game did come out, didn't it? Because, you know, whether they were good, bad, or otherwise, they just kind of came out and they were instantly forgotten by even people that were looking forward to that game. So with that, here are the nominations for the game everyone forgot about.
And the only power that matters is that of the darkness.
It's time to claim your birthright. Only you can save our world.
Destiny beckons!
Shaq Diesel, baby. And about to storm. Shaq, the legend borns.
Abandon all hope from here on. Not to mention fear and doubt. Wanderers are extremely ferocious. They attack anyone they see indiscriminately.
You know, even watching that little montage, I had forgotten some of those games came out last year. Even though we had just gone over the nominations not that long ago, I was like, oh yeah, Shaq Fu did come out last year. So with that, the winner is Dragon Quest XI. And, you know, it won for a few different reasons, but one of the big reasons was because, you know, it was the first big console Dragon Quest in many years. A lot of people were looking forward to it. It was one of the first huge turn-based RPGs to release in a while, with everything going action-based. And it came out, you know, literally a few days before Spider-Man, and everybody forgot about it. You know, there are a handful of people maybe that, you know, the diehard Dragon Quest fans who probably imported the Japanese version when that came out months before, that couldn't wait for it and played it through the end of the year. But other than those 6 people, everyone pretty much forgot that it came out. Even the people that were super looking forward to it. Spider-Man came out 4 days later and just, people forgot. And then after that, you had Call of Duty, Battlefield, Smash Brothers, Red Dead. It just came out at a really bad time, at a time when, you know,
the March of holiday releases.
Gaming fans just, you know, they had other things to occupy their time rather than spend it on an 80-hour turn-based RPG. And so, unfortunately, you know, as good of a game as it is, and a lot of people who, you know, the 6 people who played it say that, you know, it's one of the best games in the series, at least one of the best of the recent games in the series. You know, it came out at a bad time, and it was easily and quickly forgotten. And with that, we move on to the best online game.
I'm back. So, in the last few years, gaming has changed in such a way that we've moved from the older single-player sort of mentality to an online mentality, because that's just where things have gone. And in a world where we've got so many different options when it comes to online worlds that are not just consistent, but are also evolving and changing. We look at games that come out in a year where we see juggernauts falling and new kings rising from those ashes, as well as new franchises or older friends that we may not have seen in a long time come back this year and just be absolutely just not what we ever expected, and enjoyed every single minute of it. So that being said, the nominees for Best Online Game of 2018 are
So, this is to be a reckoning.
okay. Favoritism not aside, after making sure that we were able to actually talk everybody out as far as what we were really looking at, the winner for Best Online Game Award is Monster Hunter World. That's kind of a reoccurring theme in this series. Today is not just about Monster Hunter World, but more of a matter of Monster Hunter World has really just shown that you can take a game that is created in a single-player light, put it online, and make it work for the people that you actually have in your party by going up to the Gathering Hub, meeting other players, hanging out, having fun, and then going out on adventures and hunting these giant boss monsters day in and day out. The amount of just content that you get, not just through the specific monsters that are available in the game, but also through what you can actually learn and engage and find ways of being able to take yourselves to the next step and to break the limits of what the game actually has to offer. This is a really great way of being able to say, hey, look, this is what we've started, and it's only going to get better from here. We're going to keep making this game just as good as we did before, just before we changed, systems, and we're going to continue to prove that this is a system that we can build on and continue to grow, with the Iceborne expansion and beyond. To say that the engine that they're using and the content of Monster Hunter, we already know that Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate has over 90 monsters in it. To think that we could see a large number of those monsters showing up in Monster Hunter World's engine at some point, which means not only are we getting higher quality versions, we're getting new mechanics, we're getting different levels, and we're gaining monsters that we probably never even thought we were going to see in a higher resolution, like Nargacuga. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens with this, and just proves that, even if something as simple as 4-player combat against giant monsters is good enough to continue making people want to play it for a long time, then yeah, it's definitely worthwhile. So next up, we are going to go over to Brian for his Game of the Year.
So, surprise, surprise, my Game of the Year is not Monster Hunter World. I know. I don't even know what I'm doing on this show. But my Game of the Year, as you can see, is Dragon Ball FighterZ. And I'm going to correct Jan. It's Dragon Ball FighterZ, not Dragon Ball FighterZ. But basically, I mean, I've been playing Dragon Ball games since the Super Famicom, and I say Super Famicom because they never released for the Super Nintendo. They were pretty much just on the Japanese Super Famicom. And, while there was always fun, like, some of them were 1v1, some of them were team games, they are always fun, but, none of them were competitive except for Super Dragon Ball Z on the arcades and PlayStation 2, which was very short-lived. But for the most part, they weren't really competitive. You just kind of played them, and you mashed buttons with your friends, and that's it. And, they went from pixels to polygons, but they never really created the look or feel of the anime. And with Dragon Ball FighterZ, Bandai Namco basically got Arc System Works to create a fighting game that is not only super competitive, you've got the same developers that created Guilty Gear and Persona and all these other high-profile fighting games. So you've got the high-level mechanics that everybody wants, but it's also almost an HD version of the anime. And I know now with Super we have HD versions of the anime, but it looks like Z would look in the anime. It looks better in some ways than Super in HD. And when you combine the high-level gameplay, the fact that it was the biggest game at Evolution 2018, which is the largest fighting game tournament of the year, the fact that Japanese are playing it, Americans are playing it, everyone around the world is playing it, and now we've got season 2 that's being teased with the World Tour Finals coming up this weekend. This was the Dragon Ball game that a lot of people had been waiting for. It was the Dragon Ball game that a lot of people have played more than any other Dragon Ball game because of the deeper fighting mechanics, because of how good it looks, because of how faithful it is to the series. And for me, someone who wasn't super enthralled by Monster Hunter World, this was my game of the year. And, as many people would agree, the best Dragon Ball game that's ever been made. And with that, we now move on to the best online gaming personality.
All right, just before that, though, I'm going to stop the stream temporarily, and we will be right back in 30 seconds. Move on to best online game, or best online gaming personality. So, this category was originally for best YouTube gaming personality, but we decided to encompass that for a larger range of entertainers and content creators, not just on YouTube, but let's say, Mixer and especially Twitch. And there's always people out there who are really good at their job, who know how to, pull you in with their content or their personalities, and just, they're just who they are, at the end of the day, really big personalities that, they work really hard at what they do. And, well, let's just get right to the nominees real quick. Oop, wrong button. All right, hold up. Oh, there it is. Boop. Apparently I had that out of order.
Oops.
I don't like my odds here. I don't like my odds at all. It was barf.
Everything and some stuff that you land like 1 out of every 10 games, but when you landed it is absolutely freaking crazy. So last night we spent a whole bunch of time learning these crazy combo paths, trying to figure out what the hell we should be doing, and here's a quick compilation of us doing so.
Matches of history.
I'm definitely with you. Which one was that?
That was obviously Dimeback versus Pecos,
Yeah.
which was one of the most
Top 8.
amazing matches I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
All right, so there you have it. We have 4 amazing online gaming personalities, one of which is another live podcast that happens here on Twitch. One is a guy who goes by the name of Mr. Pure Instinct, really nice guy. That's actually a friend of the show. And then we have 2 YouTubers, one of which has pretty much a self-made man, and the other guy is a former member of the gaming industry, and now he entertains us by sharing his wealth of knowledge of programming. But out of all of them, there's only one who will be crowned the winner, and that is Maximilian Dude. Where to begin with this gentleman? Well, for one thing, this guy is an amazing personality. He has a great way of explaining things to people with how he breaks down trailers, breaks down gameplay of fighting games, which is pretty much his bread and butter. He does a lot of videos in terms of like live reactions. He goes to video game tournaments, and either he mostly reports on his interactions with people within the fighting game community, or he competes and reports on that. He goes to press events, checks everything out. He's willing to give any fighting game a chance, just like he tried to give Dead or Alive 5 a chance years ago. He's mostly a big fan of Street Fighter and SNK fighters. He's a big fan of Soul Calibur 6 recently, and as you just saw in the clip right there, he's really been going to town with in-depth videos for combos and stuff like that. He's really taken a liking to 2B. He's in Dead or Alive. He took a big liking to Mai Shiranui. This guy has just done so much, pretty much for the FGC in general, with just how well he is promoted, how hard he works, and he just seems to be an all-around stand-up guy. And someone I would like to get to know personally, because he just seems like someone I could definitely hang out with and just talk fighting games with. So there you have it. Best online gaming personality of 2018. And up next is the best fighting game that isn't Street Fighter, presented by Brian.
You'll be surprised once again to know that Monster Hunter is not even nominated for this category. I don't know what's happening. Because Monster Hunter, you're definitely fighting, things. I don't know how we let that slip. So I apologize to Capcom in advance that Monster Hunter wasn't nominated here. But basically, as you can tell by the name of the category, this is for the best fighting game that isn't Street Fighter. And although there wasn't really a new Street Fighter that came out this year, unless we want to count Fighting Layer, but that's not really Street Fighter.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, at a time, it was Street Fighter, but this current iteration is not Street Fighter. So, but with that, let's get to the nominations. So before I get to the winner, this was a tough category just because you had the resurgence of Soul Calibur after being gone for so many years. You had Dragon Ball FighterZ, which was my personal game of the year, and one of the best Dragon Ball games we've ever seen, and one of the first competitive Dragon Ball games. You had BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, which combines so many properties that fighting game fans really love. But the winner of this category might not come as really much of a surprise to anybody, is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And as I talked about earlier, this is literally the ultimate version of Super Smash Bros. Every character, every stage, every piece of music, everything you could want in a Smash Bros. Game for the most part is here. Sakurai really went to town to squeeze everything in there, and we're just getting started with DLC. So in addition to every single character, DLC or otherwise, that's ever appeared in the series, we're getting brand new DLC characters. We're getting a Piranha Plant next month. They're literally throwing in everything and the kitchen sink. And so, this is the game. Then granted, it hit some bumps with the online side of it, but if the only issue with your fighting game is a handful of bumps online, which, for a Nintendo console, that's kind of par for the course, then you're doing pretty good. And looking at some of the other games, they all seemingly had some bumpy roads with online play. So you can't really fault Smash Ultimate for that, but Smash Ultimate has lived up to its name. It is the ultimate Super Smash Bros. Title. It sold significantly more than any previous Smash Brothers game in its launch month. It was one of the best-selling games of 2018, and it was the highest-selling exclusive game for single-month sales in history. And it continues to sell not only Nintendo Switches, but games itself. So you can probably see why that was the fighting game of the year that wasn't Street Fighter. And it has Street Fighter characters, so I don't know. Does that even count anymore? We needed to just disqualify it because it has Ken and Ryu in it. So I apologize, guys. The real winner is Monster Hunter World. I'm sorry.
Wait. There's a Monster Hunter hunter in the game.
Rathalos is in Smash Brothers.
So in actuality, I lied to you. It wasn't Super Smash Brothers. It was Monster Hunter World.
It was Monster
Sorry,
Hunter World.
Listen. Ken and Ryu were allowed to be in good games.
So with that, we will now move on to the excellent in artistic merit.
When you think about what a video game is, there's always been this argument about, well, video games are art. Well, sure, they can be, if you like a walking simulator. But boy, I'm not spending $8 on that. Let's just, let alone, 50, because that's a thing that happened. Anyway, sometimes you get a game and it looks great, and it's just the thing that made you continue to want to play the game in the first place. Other times you get art within the music, the visuals, the hit sparks, everything about a game in general creates this ambience that just keeps you wanting to finish it. And that's a really great way of being able to make sure that you can make your video game art. So without sort of any further ado, I give you the nominees in excellent and artistic merit.
Too late for you. You're already dead.
So, we're just going to keep going with the meme, I guess. That's the idea. It actually wasn't Monster Hunter World this time. Shocker.
Shocker.
No, the winner of Excellence in Artistic Merit is actually Dragon Ball FighterZ. And I'm going to sort of explain what our logic behind a lot of this was. Based on what we originally showed, Visit of the North Star uses the Yakuza engine, which by and large is built to be this very modern, very kind of simplistic environment, but it plays out into the idea of the streets of basically what we would expect to see modern, previous, 80s Japan to actually look like from the eyes of the Yakuza. But the same thing could be said about what they did with this, the North Star. They took that post-apocalyptic idea and knocked it up to 11. The game looks fantastic, and in the Yakuza engine was probably the best idea that they could have ever done for that. Tetris Effect, while basically being created by the guys who created Lumines, which was already a fantastic game in its own right, basically took the idea of what Tetris was in this whole, it's Tetris, and it sells thousands of copies, and adding in the entire idea of pausing the game and putting it into a position where you can create multiple Tetrises and the particle effects and the splashing and the music, and it all just brings this beautiful thing together. Monster Hunter World has these thriving worlds between the ancient forest to the barren Wildspire wastes and the the ever-rotting Rotten Vale, and everything that you could ever want from a game that just brings to life these giant monsters in this massive ecosystem where you're basically just this super-powered pebble amongst, giant kaiju, to what Dragon Ball Fighters did for basically the entire Dragon Ball anime. If you go frame for frame and look at what DBZ did, it is just fantastic. Arc System Works is already known for having absolutely high quality sprite work when it comes to their other fighting game, any of their other fighting games. From BlazBlue to Guilty Gear to the new Kill la Kill game that they're bringing out, which is a full 3D fighting game, which, I might add, makes Jump Force and what's the other one that just came out? The My Hero Academia one kind of look like chump change. They don't have the same kind of pizzazz that you'd expect from something that's going to be basically an anime fighter. Arc System has this idea in their head that they're going to make it look as perfect as possible, no matter if you're playing it at 30 frames or 60 frames, and it still has this idea that it doesn't matter because it's still anime frame rate, and it looks just as good as it was that you thought it would, from 1080p all the way up to 4K. It looks phenomenal, and literally everything about this game speaks to that, because it's not just the idea that what they've created is pretty, but it's basically the FGC's love letter to Dragon Ball, and the absolute influence that the art style and Akira Toriyama have done for basically anime and fighting games in general for the last 15, 20 years. So, that being said, we are going to move on to, I think we're going to do a little bit of a recap, actually, of what we've already got, and then we'll move on to the next award, which is the We All Saw It Coming award.
Hey, Mark. Yes, recap of the show.
Okay. Well, we're a little more than halfway through at this point, and for those who are just jumping in late, hi, how you doing? Thanks for coming. But let's see. We had the Asshole Status Achieved award to lead off the show, the winner being PewDiePie. The Just 5 More Minutes award for games that you wanted to keep playing for an inordinately long amount of time went to Monster Hunter World. The Comeback Kid, hyping up companies or individuals or games that had taken a bad situation and turned it around and made it really good again, went to Capcom for this year. All Aboard the Hype Train, for games that had an exceedingly large amount of hype, regardless of whether or not it paid it off, went to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I Feel Like a Badass award went to Fist of the North Star, which I don't think should really need a lot of explaining. It's a game that makes you feel like a badass. The I Feel Dirty for playing that award is a game that, regardless of whether the game makes you feel dirty for liking it even though it's bad, or liking it even though it's sexually suggestive, or what have you, you play the game, you enjoy it, and you feel bad. You feel dirty for having appreciated it, which this year went to Fallout 76. The Game Everyone Forgot About award went to Dragon Quest XI, and as you would expect, it is a game everyone forgot about after it came out this year. The Best Online Game went to Monster Hunter World. Best Online Gaming Personality award would go to somebody who we feel went above and beyond the call of duty in presenting themselves as a content creator, whether it be through YouTube videos, live streams, or what have you. And that went to Maximilian Dude. The Best Fighting Game That Isn't Street Fighter award does what it says on the can. It's the best fighting game that isn't a Street Fighter. And this year it went to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And the Excellence in Artistic Merit award went to Dragon Ball FighterZ, which is games that do particularly well with the artistry that is on display in their property. And now, we are going into an award that we have titled We All Saw It Coming, which, again, does what it says on the can. You ever see a game company come forward and say a thing and you're just like, well, I knew that was going to happen sooner or later? This award is literally to highlight that. The idea that somebody announced a thing or did a thing that we knew was going to happen long before it actually did. So that when it did happen, it was just like, oh, well, that's a thing now. And this year, our nominees are...
And the only power that matters is that of the darkness.
It's time to claim your birthright. Only you can save our world.
Destiny beckons!
Now, everything listed in this award category is pretty much something that we all agreed was pretty obvious in retrospect from the moment that it was announced going forward. But there was one thing that everyone here universally agreed, more or less, was something that they had forecasted from the moment something else had happened months or even a year beforehand, and that was the PlayStation Classic. Now, you could argue that it became apparent that people were going to start cribbing off of the Battle Royale train once Fortnite became a big deal, showcasing that it wasn't just a PUBG thing, everybody could make Battle Royale games. You could argue that it was pretty obvious once it was apparent Dragon Quest 11, was going to be launching within the same time window as Spider-Man that it was going to get its ass beat. And you could even argue that once it was apparent that the Switch was going to be a success and Monster Hunter World was going to be a success, that it was a matter of when, not if, Monster Hunter Generations was going to come out. But the PlayStation Classic was pretty much a foregone conclusion the moment that the NES Classic was announced. The moment that Nintendo said, hey, here's a little plastic shell wrapped around a Raspberry Pi that can play a crap load of our video games for you, and it's like $100, it was immediately apparent that Sony was going to jump on that bandwagon. This is nothing to say of the quality of the product or what it does or how it does it. It's just that at the exact moment that it was made apparent that this was a viable financial business decision, it was immediately apparent that Sony could smell the dollar signs. We knew it was going to happen. I'm surprised it took as long as it did to happen, but it should not have been a surprise the moment that it was announced, only that they waited as long as they did to bring it out. And without further ado, let us then move on to Ms. Janyce's Game of the Year.
Yeah. What'd you think it was? What'd you think it was?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Monster Hunter Live Awards Show.
The Monster Hunter World Awards Show, where Monster Hunter wins everything. Yeah, so this is my Puke. I just got it out of a gacha a couple of days ago because I found that there's a store nearby that actually does Monster Hunter gachas, so now I need to collect all of them because this is the thing that I do. And they're only $9. Oh crap! So much for paychecks. Monster Hunter World is a game that I have absolutely just kind of died for. Sponsored by High Potions and Wide Range. Thanks, Wigglerhead. The only time you can wear that specific piece of armor and have it not be ironic. Honestly, Monster Hunter World being something... So let me go back a little bit. I played Monster Hunter since the first one on PlayStation 2. Online, I might even add. So yeah, I've been playing for a long time. I've played through most of its iterations, including most of the recent ones. I even went out of my way to figure out how I could actually play the online-only Xbox 360 Monster Hunter Frontier Z many, many moons ago. So much so that this is sort of like my bread and butter when it really comes to, if I were to be asked, hey, what are your like top 3 franchises of all time? Monster Hunter would be easily number 1 for me, purely just because of the concept and the aspects and the ideas behind what Monster Hunter is all about. But what Monster Hunter World did above all of the other versions is it brought back 2 very key things about what the Monster Hunter franchise has always been about. The first is being online, but being on a console that is something that you can sit down and really kind of build into what you're going to be playing against to sort of really understand what it is that you're fighting up. And the other part is purely just the fact that the system itself became that much more obtainable for people that you normally would never actually see playing these kinds of games. A lot of times people look at Monster Hunter and they're like, it's just a monster grind. It's a repetitive grind. You're beating up the same monster over and over again just to get armor and weapons to do the same thing. I would counter that with, you guys played World of Warcraft for 13 years. Welcome to the bandwagon. A lot of it is the same idea. It's just beating specific loot monsters, breaking open the loot crate, getting your pieces, and making your armor. This is basically what Monster Hunter is, but the grind becomes far less repetitive and more valuable, because now, in most cases, you're not just doing it by yourself. You're doing it in a team, and you're pushing yourself and your team to not only see better and more difficult content, but you're trying to better yourself and make it so that you guys have the ability to break records or figure out how to kill a specific monster in under a minute. There's a group of guys that figured out how to beat Nier Gigante in 54 seconds with 4 heavy bow guns and nothing but a bunch of, explosions. It's crazy that the amount of just fun and content that people put together specifically just for this game. And when they announced Iceborne, it was just even that much more. It's just craziness. The amount of additional monsters, new areas, a whole new world to finally see additional monsters we never thought we'd ever see again, purely just because we didn't have the areas for it. But now we do, and it's only just going to keep getting bigger and better, and I can't wait, honestly. And I feel like everything about what Monster Hunter World did, not just for Capcom, but for the Monster Hunter franchise in general, has been absolutely amazing, and it only has the room to grow beyond where it is now and where it can honestly be seen going in the next 2, maybe even 5 years. So that being said, we're going to go from a great game to our next award, which is the Konami Award for Excellence in Failure.
So first, can I just say that clip of, you chasing a limping monster, trying to kill it for its hide or whatever, you guys are animals.
No, they're animals. We're hunting them.
Yeah. Terrible people. Terrible people. Speaking of terrible, some of you might be wondering what this has to do with Konami, other than the fact that, they ran Kojima out of town and they're money hungry and everything else. If you go back to E3 2010, Konami had a little thing that they called a press conference, and it was really just, it was so bad it was good. I mean, there was so much failure going on. It was terrible. So if you have a chance, go to YouTube and just search Konami E3 2010 and watch that press conference. You will not be disappointed. Or watch many of the highlight videos that will give you the highlights of that press conference. But I mean, Konami has been known to make more than a few errors in its time. More recently with Kojima, that kind of almost knocked them out of the video game realm. And the nominations for this category kind of fall in line with that kind of failure. So without further ado, here are the nominations.
Country roads, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia.
So all those nominations, all those nominees were epic failures of one kind or another. But the winner of our category is Sony's E3 press conference for 2018. And whether you watched that press conference or you were in attendance at that press conference, it was just bad from start to finish. Now, we're not talking about the footage that was shown, although granted, they could have done a better job of showing that footage. But some of the footage shown was amazing. What we're talking about is, first of all, for the people in attendance there, you know, a typical Sony press conference, and I've been going to E3 since 1998. The typical Sony press conference, or Microsoft or Nintendo back when they had them, or whoever, is you go and you sit in some sort of auditorium and you're wowed by, if it's Sony, financial numbers, if it's anybody else, game trailers, for an hour, 90 minutes, whatever it may be. Sometimes they'll have a party afterwards. Sometimes they'll have a reception beforehand. But you're basically there to sit, take notes, maybe to take some video, and get wowed by new game announcements. This year, or I guess last year at this point, Sony decided that they would make it more interesting. So they had several different areas set up where the people in attendance would walk to one area and they would show off one of their games. And then at the end of that presentation, that was, 10, 15 minutes, they'd have to walk a decent ways to the next small venue and then all file in and sit down, and then they'd show their next thing. And then they'd file to the next area, do it over and over again. So for the people in attendance, it was bad because you had to get up and sit back down and get up and sit back down, and you missed a lot of the announcements that were only shown on the live stream while you're walking from one location to the next, and it was just a pain. For the people that were watching, you would get one big announcement in footage or whatever, and then it would kick it back to this random desk where they'd show you a bunch of little announcements that didn't matter, that you didn't care about, while everyone else was walking from one destination to the next. So you're sitting online going, where's the next announcement? What's all this downtime? Who are these new hosts? Why do I care about this little dinky game that nobody cares about that should have been announced during the pre-show or not at all? Just for everyone involved, it was just bad. And I don't know what Sony was thinking. I don't know what the idea was going in. But if it helps anything, they decided to completely skip E3 this year. So I guess last year they're just like, we've shown everything we had. You guys are upset. Now we're not even going to be. So they took their ball and they went home. But it was a failure. I applaud Sony. We all applaud Sony on trying to mix up the E3 press conference vibe. But this is a press event. This isn't something where you need to show off. This isn't the Mortal Kombat 11 reveal where you want everything over the top. It's an event where 1,000 or so members of the press go in, sit down, and you wow them with your games, or 100,000 people online sit down and watch game trailer after game trailer after game trailer and talk about how awesome your upcoming game is. That's not what happened at the Sony E3 2018 press conference. And that is why it is our Konami Award for Excellence and Failure. And with that, we move on to the Good Job Breaking It Hero Award.
I guess when things spiral out of control, it's probably best to just keep going in the nosedive, right? That's the whole object. That's the whole idea behind our Good Job Breaking It hero. Sometimes you get into a position where you're thinking to yourself, it couldn't get any worse. But you know that as soon as you say that, it's going to get worse. And sometimes, boy, does it just keep getting worse. So, that being said, our nominees for Good Job Breaking It are Oof. That's how I can say about everything that happened in the news last year. It was pretty heavy. Ninja being a dumb whatever. Streamers do that all the time, right? Jeff, I know you don't watch us, but you're an idiot. You tried. You just didn't do very well. You tried to make up for it during the VGAs, so I guess. But let's be honest. Yeah, you're kind of a dumpster fire, bro. You gotta pick it up. You're getting paid the big bucks to do this now. Telltale. Oof, that's just a nightmare in the making. If somebody else doesn't make a Telltale-like game about Telltale closing, I'll be shocked. And where do I even start with Blizzard? So the winner is Blizzard. And a lot of it is, if you haven't been paying attention because you live under a rock, Blizzard, who is owned by Activision, has begun to make a series of absolutely ridiculous and, I guess we saw it coming, kind of different choices that are all very poor and have continued to be poor. From the forced step down of the original CEO and co-founder Mike Morhaime to a pension if you quit program, I guess is what it is for, non-executive level employees that are at a lower level in the company that they just couldn't afford to keep on because Activision has continually stated that Blizzard's output in revenue has been decreasingly more and more poor and are not happy with what their changes are, to the announcement of we're not doing a Diablo 4, we're making a mobile game that's actually a reskin and a copy of a NetEase game that was not really even that popular in China to begin with. And then they completely shut down and closed the doors on the HGC, which is their version of the Pro Tour for Heroes of the Storm, and their Heroes of the Dorm tournament, which was actually really cool because it allowed for college teams to actually go in, play Heroes of the Storm, and try to get scholarships for their college. Like, that was a really great plan, and I have no idea why they would want to cancel something that cool and that watched, because it was probably a hell of a lot more watched than their HGC stuff, but what are you going to do? They've moved people around internally from older projects to new mobile-only projects, and yes, I say mobile-only projects because they've actually announced that they're mobile-only projects. The sirens and the alarms that are going off right now in the gaming world about what Activision is doing to Blizzard, and I've made this parallel many times. This is the exact same thing that EA did to Maxis when they purchased them, and is the exact same step of processing that they forced Maxis to do when they started pushing away from them being able to do anything else other than The Sims. They attempted a mobile division, which we all know failed horribly, and they just kept with the one game that they knew was making them money in the first place, which is the only reason Maxis is even a well-known name right now, is because of The Sims. This is the exact same thing that's currently happening with Activision to Blizzard. We've all heard recently that Bungie finally was able to remove itself from the Activision brand, and it's great because sweet, that's a great thing. But we've also seen the comics where they were saying, hey, Blizzard's still in the dumpster fire. There's not a lot we can do that. And, well, unfortunately, that's about all there is to it. Blizzard is slowly being picked apart by the buzzards that are left at Activision because they think this is what's left and that can make them money. I don't know, man. I think that's kind of not the way it needs to go, and it's kind of a shame to see what's happening to what used to be a very powerful and very good company being literally ripped to shreds by their top-end publisher. At this point, who knows what's going to happen next? So let's get out of the depressing stuff, and let's move on to the next award, which is, yeah, I'll play it again.
Hey, everybody. So over the course of the last few years, retro gaming has picked up exponentially. And with that, Nintendo, Sony, and so many other game companies have been hopping into the fray with everything from retro consoles to HD remasters of older games. And the Yeah, I'll Play It Again award pretty much represents that. HD games or re-releases of games from yesteryear that have come out and deserve a second playthrough, or just to play in general if you missed it out on the first time. So without further ado, here are the nominees for Yeah, I'll Play It Again.
Looks like I've got some things to do.
All right, so 4 amazing games, two of them of which are compilations. Actually, 3 of them are compilations, as a matter of fact, with multiple games. And to be truthfully honest, the winner of the I'll Play It Again is Shadow of the Colossus. A PS2 game that has received a lot of attention and didn't just get a graphical upgrade like, Spyro did. It got extra content added to it. You have an extremely immersive, beautiful, somber game with lots of beautiful, terrain, amazing monsters, boss fights, or whatever the hell you want to call them. Titans that are roaming the world. It's pretty much, if you haven't had a chance to play this game back when it originally released on the PS2, and let's be truthfully honest, I'm pretty sure a good chunk of the people in this day and age have not, you definitely owe it to yourself to pick up this game and try it out. Shadow of the Colossus is from the same people who made It Go, and again, there's another game that actually got a HD re-release as well, not too long ago, and these are some just high-quality games that really deserve to be remastered in so many ways. I mean, I really don't know how I can properly begin to justify, picking up Shadow of the Colossus again, other than what I've just said. I mean, it is just an experience. And the fact that that we're given this chance to, enjoy this game once again on modern consoles is just a really good thing. It's a blessing, to be truthfully honest. And I'm just mumbling and stumbling all over myself. But so we'll just move on, and we're going to be moving on to the last category of the night, and that is Santa Hates Me Award, the worst game. Here you go.
First off, can I just take a moment to say that of all the moments where I could find out that we are being, I don't really know, what's the opposite of graced? Damned with a kill game, to discover it tonight, I am just disappointed. Hashtag fuck kill a kill, hashtag feminism. But yeah, so this is a new award that we have slotted in for the year. Basically, we always tried to go above and beyond and to not just go for the cheap, obvious thing of, oh, here's an award for the worst game of the year. But Jesus Christ, this year actually had games, major releases from major companies that were legitimately bad enough on one or multiple levels that we could justify having a worst game of the year award. Like I didn't want it to be, just shovelware from Steam or, something that was like a $5 piece of crap or whatever. No, these are actual legitimate games that came out in just such a bad state in some capacity or another that it was finally time for an award recognizing a legitimately terrible game to come out this year. And here are the nominees for the Santa Hates Me Award.
Like the breeze, country roads, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia.
Tear apart anyone on your path. Delight in the taste of their blood. Let yourself be carried by the most primitive instincts. Let blood lead you.
Real quick, Mark, I like to point out that I think Fallout 76 has the second most nominations tonight, and none of them were in positive categories.
Tells you something, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Now, I don't really have anything to say about NTA 2K Playgrounds 2. I'm not. I know nothing about sports ball, but I am told it's very bad. So you'll have to take our word for it on that one. But the other three games I am intimately familiar with, and let me tell you, all three of them in any other year would have been easily the worst game to come out. Fallout 76, when it launched, was a buggy, broken, just borderline unenjoyable mess. And even with multiple months worth of patches to get it to a point where it mostly functions as intended, it still just has so many issues that make it deeply confusing and really makes me wish that we could get some type of a moratorium on that game, that even though we're never going to see it. Agony was a kickstarted game that actually looked incredibly cool, but ended up coming out as a game that was a buggy, broken, borderline unplayable mess, and just felt like an edgelord's wet dream. It's just weird, just weird, gross, and not even a little bit scary or disconcerting. It just felt like somebody said, "Ooh, let's put some more blood. Let's put some more blood. Let's put some ribs over here. Let's put some penis over here," and none of it works. But pound for pound, the worst game that isn't like the worst game of everything that we had the experience of in the year 2018 was The Quiet Man. I don't know what you could possibly do to fix this game. Like, Fallout 76 eventually can have patches added to it that will put it into a position where it is a viable game in a couple of years, probably. Agony definitely has some bad points. But you could at least say that it kind of sort of might appeal to a certain type of gamer. The Quiet Man basically seems like Square Enix was thinking about stuff that they made, and they were like, "Hey, you guys remember the bouncer? Let's do that again. But this time with real people." Just I don't even know where to begin. The movie that surrounds the game in the FMV setup Like this game sort of feels like it's supposed to be like that Jet Li game that came out on the PlayStation 2 several years ago, where there's kind of sort of a crossover between FMV and digitized graphics. The FMV film that is attached to this game, the first time you play it through is played completely on mute because the protagonist of the game, Dane, is deaf. So we as the players are supposed to experience the world through his ears. Fine, except that there are many different cuts to other camera angles that Dane could not possibly see, which really just makes this insultingly weird that you would even bother having the whole thing be on mute because Dane couldn't have fucking heard this even if he could hear. But further to the point, Dane can read lips. So the fact that we aren't being given the same type of tools that he is we're not experiencing it the way the protagonist is. We just can't fucking hear a goddamn thing. If you beat the game once, you're then given an audio track and you immediately understand why everything was on mute, because this is the worst fucking plot I've seen in a video game. And I've played the first Phantasmagoria.
Ooh. Wow.
Which was also a full motion video game. Yeah, just the plot is ridiculously bad. It's about a guy kind of sort of doing a fake kidnapping of a woman who wants to escape from another guy, and just a whole bunch of ridiculous repositioning of who the good guy and the bad guy is. Nobody's motivations matter. None of it makes any sense, and it's just really poorly written. All of the actors basically seem like they were hired from a community college for $5 total, not a piece. I want to be clear. Ew. And so many of the sets are just badly set up, or it's just like the outside of a building with stuff shittily CGI'd on.
Mm-hmm.
So as a film experience, it's bad. But as a game, it's worse. The main character, Dane's character model in this really looks like it was on its first pass in the character rendering engine, as his forehead constantly looks like a Sharpay's butthole. His animations are clunky and do not transition in any conceivable way from one to another. This is like the first 3D Mortal Kombat levels of jank. The game does not have any kind of a meaningful tutorial. It's just, if you pause the game, it shows you a bunch of neon signs that say, here's what happens when you press this button. Which, fine, but there are systems in the game that never make any goddamn sense. You don't know how they work, and the game gives you no indication of how you're supposed to get through them. I bashed my head against one boss 20 times on stream before finally figuring out the magic combination of things I needed to do to defeat him. I didn't really do anything different. I didn't feel like I learned anything, and I don't really understand what Square Enix thinks deaf people are like, but like, no, deaf people can learn things.
Yikes.
Like, just because Dane is deaf doesn't mean your game should play like shit, and that you shouldn't explain to me anything about the mechanics, guys. Like, I know Japan has a weird relationship with many different kinds of things in the world, but for fuck's sake, like, deaf people aren't magic. Which, by the way, is basically the ending of this game when Dane turns into a magical fucking superhero and murders I guess deaf people literally are magic. It's the fact that the main thing that I think really that shows that The Quiet Man deserves this award was that instead of trying to do anything to cover it up, Square Enix literally, with their secondary line of advertising campaigns, leaned into the fact that the game is a piece of shit and started actually quoting reviewers who were like, this game is a piece of shit. Which is certainly one of the more inventive ways I've seen of advertising your game. So yeah. Quiet Man's bad. Worst game to come out in 2018. If you can get it for cheap, I definitely recommend playing it if you like bad games. They're never going to fix it. It's going to be terrible forever. So, you know, if you see it for $1 somewhere, definitely give it a shot. But it's terrible. I recommend it.
And with that, we go to the final game of the year, being presented by Mr. Mark B. Writing.
I thought we were going to talk about
Did we actually have it on our
I don't know.
I don't know.
Monster Hunter World.
Monster Hunter World. Oh, right. I totally forgot about that.
I mean, it's
one.
fine. It's fine. We don't have to. Listen. I have been the Monster Hunter guy for years. For years. Much like Janyce, I played the first game on PlayStation 2. I imported Monster Hunter 2 for the PlayStation 2, and I have played every single game that is released, including like the majority of the side story games. So, with the you know the obvious joke going on here, astonishingly enough, no, my game of the year is not Monster Hunter. Because here's the thing. I've played Monster Hunter like 30 different times at this point. For me, the thing that was going to get me as my game of the year was going to be the game that was going to do something different. And for me, that was Mutant Year Zero. Now, Mutant Year Zero was a game that I kind of just found out was coming out sometime in the middle of the year, put on my watch list, and then forgot about. And then all of a sudden, one day, it came out, and I saw what it was, and I immediately purchased it and thought, God, I hope this game doesn't suck. And not only does it not suck, I really wish that it had come out earlier in the year in general, so it could have showed up on other people's Game of the Year listings. This game is developed in part with people who worked on the original XCOM Enemy Unknown games. And it is essentially a modern interpretation of Jagged Alliance set in a post-apocalyptic world where mutants are at least a dominant species, if not the dominant species. Now, Jagged Alliance, for those who are not aware of it, is essentially like XCOM, except that it heavily varies between real-time movement and turn-based movement. You can use real-time movement to get your characters from place to place, to search things, to organize things, and what have you. But once you get to combat, you switch to turn-based movement, and you can use it to ambush enemies and beat the shit out of them. Unlike XCOM, which saw a really strong reinvention a few years ago from Firaxis, Jagged Alliance-style games haven't really seen a whole lot of love, as even the developers who are making Jagged Alliance-style games are doing really terribly at making Jagged Alliance-style games. So, getting a Jagged Alliance-style game in general is just awesome. I just think that's great. But then on top of that, you've got game characters who are really interesting to follow. Like, I've seen a few people that I know who played the game just a little bit and were already like, Dux is one of the greatest characters. You know, like they just thought that these characters were really interesting, that they had really great lines of dialogue, that they just emoted and presented themselves really well. And on top of that, this game actually does the post-apocalyptic landscape concept, I think, in a way that very few people do, where the characters don't understand how technology works, or at least the technology of their ancestors, like our people, and just make stupid jokes about it. Like, they thought that an iPhone was some type of a portable juice machine. It's dumb, and it's great. On top of that, each of the characters that you can field, you can only bring into battle 3 at a time, have their own unique skill trees that allow them to actually perform differently in battle. So it's not just a case of fielding a person and having them represent a particular skill setup. You know, the Warthog character can crash through walls and act as a human shield. Dux the duck can grow like moth-style wings. I don't know why it's moth-style wings. Just go with it. And fly over the battle. Your one mutant-type character gets like really heavy agility, can jump up to the top of buildings and take really strong shots. Another character you get is like a telepath who can kill people with his mind. So every character has a unique role that makes them worth having in your team. and they can all equip the same weapons as one another, so you can outfit your characters however you want. You can set them up in whatever way you want. There's just a lot of variety here. There's just a lot of interesting mechanics here. The only thing that I will say about it is that it definitely is a game that expects you to be good, like, because it's not gonna make it easy on you, and it definitely took me a few tries to get through some of the missions. But honestly, if you're up for a little bit of a challenge, this was easily, far and away, my game of the year. And if you are even a little bit into turn-based style strategy, I cannot recommend Mutant Year Zero strongly enough.
All right, thank you, Mark. And with that concludes the GVN Live 2018 awards. And I had a blast. How about the rest of you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
All right, and for those of you who just joined us in the chat, this is something we do annually at the beginning of the year to kick off each season of GVN Live, which is a bi-weekly podcast. The next episode will be on February 2nd. It may be on a Wednesday tonight, but our regular broadcast day is on a Tuesday, and this is an exception, and yeah, that's just how things go sometimes. So, looking forward to 2019, we've got a lot of really awesome stuff possibly going on. Already at the beginning of the year, we've had supposed PS5 specs leaked. We got Shenmue 3 coming out. In less than 5 days, we got Kingdom Hearts 3 finally coming out. We got so many other things going on in this year that 2019 could be probably the best year of gaming since, like, 2016. What was that, 2016 or 2017 do you guys think was the best year of gaming we've had recently?
Every year's the best year.
1999.
1999. Well, yeah.
I would say probably 2017.
Yeah, that's probably
all right. And but what do you guys? I know undoubtedly I am looking forward to Shenmue 3. Like, that fucking game can't get here soon enough. I've waited 13 years. 13 fucking years.
I'll tell you what I'm not looking forward to. Kill the fucking fighting game. Get the fuck out.
But, Brian, because you're not on the show that often, please tell me, what are you looking forward to this year?
Nothing really looks great to me. Like, I'm not big on Kingdom Hearts. I'm not big on Resident Evil. Jump Force looks like a garbage fire.
Starting off strong, I see.
Like, I'll play some DOA 6, but I don't think I'm going to play it very long. Just because it's made for DOA fans, which is rightful.
Mm-hmm.
Mortal Kombat 11 looks like another game that I'll play for maybe a month and then put down. So right now, I mean, maybe, like, I don't know which of the Sony exclusives are coming out. Like, I mean,
well, Last of Us 2 is coming out, right?
I'm sorry?
Last of Us 2 is coming out this year, right?
Ooh, probably not, actually. That's probably not. Ghost is supposed to be this year. Shadows Die Twice is in a couple of months, so I'm looking forward to that, although it's not the Bloodborne 2 that I wanted.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I'm most looking forward to probably Shadows Die Twice, just because I like Dark Souls, I like Bloodborne, I like Bloodborne more, but that's okay. From Software hates me. So yeah, probably that, and then maybe Ghost, assuming that's this year. I think Ghost is this year, so probably those two games.
Okay. And how about you, Jan? What are you looking forward to for 2019? Gaming or announcement-wise?
Well, let's see here. We've got 2 games in January that are actually something I'm super looking forward to. You've got Resident Evil 2 at the end of the month. You've got Kingdom Hearts 3 at the end of the month. Ace Combat 7, God Eater 3. I'm just trying to look through the list of some other stuff that I actually saw that I actually tried to find. It was Sekiro is supposed to be coming out in March, so I'm looking forward to that. Again, like, he said it's not the Bloodborne 2 that we were promised, but it'll come eventually, I'm sure. It's fine, right? I'm not waiting for Armored Core. I don't know what you're talking about. Stop it.
I don't know if I'm looking forward to Armored Core because it needs to go back to old school, and I don't think it's going to.
See, that's the thing though. Like, if I'm really
when you
looking
say
forward
old
to
school, when you say old school, do you mean we play with the fucking triggers instead of the right stick, like savages?
I mean like Armored Core 2.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
savages.
Like savages.
Listen. You can take a sugar frosted fuck off the end of my dick because being able to use the right stick was the greatest goddamn innovation that franchise added in.
Sure, which is fine. Can we change everything else back?
Oh yeah, absolutely, that's fine.
I mean, Nexus was
honestly,
good. I like Nexus perfectly fine, so I don't know.
I'm a big fan of 4-answer, but that's just my own personal preference.
Yeah, 4-answer is probably Nexus and 4-answer are probably my two favorites. 2 is very good though.
Though if I'm really gonna be honest about it, I don't know whether or not it's actually going to see the light of day as soon as they say it's going to. But if I'm going to want to get my giant robot fix, it's probably going to end up being with Daemon X Machina on Switch. Like I'm super looking forward to that one. I think that one's going to be a real big hit for me. So we'll see. Mortal Kombat 11, obviously. Goodness gracious, Shenmue, absolutely. Maybe Gears 5, definitely Psychonauts 2, and gosh, I don't know. I think that's pretty much like the big ones for me. I think obviously we've got a couple of other games that'll be additions to stuff. Like I'm super excited for. Well, there's actually two. There's the release of Shadowbringers, which is the new expansion for Final Fantasy XIV, which I'm super excited about. And then there's another MMO that's supposed to be coming out. I don't know the actual release date. I thought it was supposed to be in 2019.
Well, I do know that they're releasing the Elsewhere expansion to Elder Scrolls Online this year. I'm kind of excited about that.
Promathia would know actually when
Gajit
it's
has
supposed to be coming out. The Promathia would know exactly what I'm talking about, but the release for Pantheon, which is another MMO, which is basically like I have really high hopes to be really good MMO, but I am still kind of on the fence about it. But I do know that I've got a couple of friends of mine who are going to be in the early access alpha stuff, so they're going to be playing it all the way through. So I'm going to see how it develops. So I'm really excited to see what that game is actually going to bring to the table. Outside of that, I think that's pretty much it. I don't. Oh, right. No, I'm sorry. And Code Vein. Whenever they finally decide to release that, because anime Dark Souls is kind of my jam.
Yeah, but that's been delayed so many times. I've lost confidence in that being decent.
It's Bandai Namco. They play anime games very close to the chest, and
Jump
are very
Force
good with
is
them,
Bandai
so-
Namco.
Right, but it's also shonen, and we already know that they've put
Code Vein is the
too
developer
many
of God Eater and God Eater 2.
Yeah.
They've made a shitload of good games.
Mhm.
Even if I don't have faith
So
in
then
Bandai
what's
Namco,
the
I
problem
have
with
faith.
Code Vein? Why has it been delayed like 3 times?
Because they
It's an
want it to not
engine problem.
suck.
Well, that, and there's actually an actual engine problem that they had.
Well,
Would you
Duke
rather
Nukem
that they
Forever
pull a
was delayed
Bethesda-
for 10
Would
years.
you rather that they pull a Bethesda on it and shove it out the door while it's still putting on its pants?
I mean, we've waited
No,
10 years for
but,
Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm still playing it.
I've played several games that were delayed multiple times and still came out bad.
I mean, individual miles may vary. It's fine. Like, some people like the game, some people don't. I still have every confidence that Bandai Namco takes anime very seriously, and they'll do what they can to make it as good as possible. Jump Force excluded, because let's be honest, it looks like a dumpster fire, even though it's got some fairly interesting ideas. I don't know. Is it a Xenoverse 3? Not really. Is it going to be terrible? We'll see. I don't know.
I would like Code Vein to be good. I've just lost confidence after all the
Absolutely.
delays.
I mean, I lost confidence in a Final Fantasy VII remake coming out before I die, but, you know, I'm still going to play it when it does.
I've actually heard that's not going to be as action-oriented as originally planned, so that has me a little bit hopeful, but I know it's not going to be the straight turn-based I want, so...
It's not the original, and it's not Platinum, so who knows? We'll see what happens. I have Grand Blue Fantasy to tide me over until then, so it seems good.
All right. And Mark, what's come to you? What are you looking forward to in 2019 before we end the show?
Let's see. Well, Resident Evil 2, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
God Eater 3, obviously. Code Vein, if it comes out this year, obviously. I'm kind of on the fence with Animal Crossing right now, just because I like it to be good, but I haven't really gotten into an Animal Crossing in a while, so it's like, yeah, we'll see what happens.
That's about where I'm at. I was really into Animal Crossing GameCube, but I haven't been in any of them since then.
Yeah.
I never played a single one.
Game. They're pretty fun. They're pretty fun. It's kind of mindless. You just like accomplish certain things, but like there's not really any overarching goal or requirements to move forward. One game I'm actually starting to slowly get sold on, more, find out more stuff for it, is Anthem.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I am not somebody who is ever going to, stand up and say, oh, well, BioWare makes games that play well. Because gameplay is not their strong suit. It's just not. Their strong suit is their character writing and some of their scene-to-scene stuff. So a game that is predominantly based around gameplay makes me leery, but from everything I have seen hyping up the game at this point and everything I've seen working with it in some capacity or another, I really hope it's going to be good, because it just looks really awesome. It looks like, honestly, what Destiny has been trying to be for years
absolutely.
and multiple iterations at this point.
Absolutely.
I thought Destiny was trying to be freaking Borderlands.
No. If anything, not even close. Borderlands
No, Destiny actually wants to be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wants to be, but it never was. And Borderlands, to me, is a good game.
The thing about
Borderlands, the first one, was a good game.
Oh, yeah.
Except that the game's balancing is fucking dog shit, and if you play with more than one person, you're gonna get fucked in your butt.
I think
you have such a wonderful way with words, Mark. You're like a poet.
I think my thing about BioWare is they got that
Pounded in
triangle.
the butt by my book, pounded in 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 the butt by my own butt. From author Chuck Tingle.
That's a real book, by the way. Look it up. My thing about BioWare is that they got that triangle that basically said you can do two of these three things, and the three things were good gameplay, awesome storytelling, and beautiful graphics. And unfortunately, they didn't pick the one that we really needed it to pick. But Anthem, to me, just like you said, as like the hype train for Anthem at this point has me about 50-50 on the fence right now. I want it to be really good, and I want it to succeed because I like BioWare's story. And I like the worlds that they craft, but at the same time, there's this whole other idea of, yeah, but EA.
Well, I mean, even beyond that, BioWare has never been the gameplay company to me.
Right.
Mass Effect games play fine. They're not great. I don't know who in the fuck thought it was a good idea to make an online third-person shooter in the Mass Effect world, but no.
Newspaper. I'll do it.
Okay, you know what? I think we should move on.
We're digressing at this point.
Yeah, like the only other game I can think of really outside of Code Vein is probably Bloodstained.
Oh, that's going to finally release this year?
They're saying it's going to release this year. It's, that's another thing. It was originally supposed to release in 2017, and it's been pushed back, and it's pushed back, and it's pushed back. So I have faith that Koji Igarashi can do something good with it, because the demo that they showed off for it looked really good, and the little side game that they made looked really good. But beyond that, I'm not 100% certain. Oh, yeah, and Devil May Cry 5, because we're going back to regular Dante. So it's I'm a simple man. You give me regular Dante, I'll probably spend $60 on it.
Hey, that works.
Now featuring the real Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so that is the end of our show. Thank you for sticking with us after, some technical issues at the beginning of the show. And in case you want to follow any of us on Twitter, we got Mr. Mark B. Writing, we got Excalibur Berm I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it. You do it. I didn't write it down. I'm sorry.
Oh
Whatever.
my god. Berm.
Well, we got and okay, Dr. Dog, no period in the name, by the way.
I don't ever update my Twitter though, so don't bother.
Yeah, so don't bother.
Yeah.
You can follow GVN official Twitter at the GVN official. You want to go ahead and just spell out your Twitter, Jan?
Yeah, it's Excalibur Might. The last 5 is MYGHT.
All right, and there you go. And my regular Twitter is at Fight Club Hubs. Pretty much, you can also the Twitter names also act as our Twitch channels as well. I don't know if you have a Twitch channel, Brian.
I don't ever stream.
Aw. Well, how about you
comes
plug
onto the show to be on the show to be with us. He doesn't do things outside of that unless it's on paper or on the internet.
Okay, well, Brian, by the way, go ahead and why don't you hawk your wares? Tell people what you do, where to go to read your stuff.
Honestly, I haven't even been writing that much lately. It's been a lot of managerial stuff, so I don't even have anything you can really read.
He's an adult again. Oh God, what have we done?
Yeah, I manage the people that do the writing now.
Oh no!
Good for you.
It hates being a grown up, or it sucks being a grown up. Yeah.
Yeah, at least now I get to play games I want to play instead of play games I'm paid to play.
Well, I mean, column A, column B, right?
Yep. All right, and again, this is GVN Live. We are a bi-weekly podcast, usually on Tuesdays. The next episode is February 5th, and we look forward to having a wonderful 2019, and hopefully our viewers will come back to us in droves once they realize we're back from winter break, and we love interacting with them as well. So on behalf of everyone here on GVN Live, I want to say thank you and have a wonderful night.
Deuces.